You ready? 3, 2.
Wait, hold on. It's not allowing me.
No, it's already showing recording. Why is it already showing recording?
Never mind. Okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
All right. Welcome, everyone. New JFK show number 246. Larry is on the trail again with a film that took about 10 years to come out. And it's all on the JFK blog. If you want to follow along with us tonight, go to the new JFK show blog, and we'll be talking about the Daniels film tonight. Welcome to the show, Dr. Fetzer, Larry Rivera. We got the three-man team ready to go. So, Larry, we're going to...
Hey, Gary, why don't you do that math again?
What?
1978 and 1963.
20 years. Oh, okay. 20 years.
16.
Right. Okay.
15. Sorry, 15.
Okay.
Very good, Larry.
All right.
Go ahead and share, Larry. Go ahead and share.
Oh, wow. Wait. Not yet. Hold on. Let me get my... Anyway, just to give you guys a little background, you guys know Mike Machanska, who's on a few shows with us.
Yeah.
Our film expert.
We need to have him on again. It's been a while.
From Hollywood. Yeah, from Hollywood, Mike. And, he's always looking at film and everything. And this time, I think he would hit this one out of the park because he put us on the right track. I had studied this film before, and I mentioned it in my book when I wrote about the unlikelihood of James Chaney being the one who rode ahead and informed Chief Curry about the severity of JFK's wounds, which is what I call the urban legend, okay? And that was debunked by the Daniel film, which I cite in the book, and I also include this little article here that came out in Clandestine America in 1979.
Yeah.
And just to give you a little background on the Daniel film, it did not make its debut until 1978 when the House Select Committee on Assassinations came to be, and it's because the Daniel family insisted on on telling the world that it existed. And
it's too bad they didn't make a copy, Larry. They should have made multiple copies so the FBI couldn't scrub it.
Absolutely, that's what we're gonna see. Unfortunately, happen.
Obviously, they didn't talk to Mr. Nix about all this. Sure.
Well, and the Bronson film was also another one that did not.
They were all messed with.
Yeah, absolutely. The ones that's what I've maintained throughout this journey here, that any film that survived the assassination was altered in one way or another.
Yes.
Yeah, I always thought that was a powerful fact.
And this is probably why we don't have Beverly's. It just showed too much, and they couldn't even let part of it out.
Well. Also, let's not forget that the FBI was stationed at every photo lab in the Dallas Metroplex.
Right, of course, for 2 weeks after. Yeah.
2 weeks after, collecting everything, like shooting fish in a barrel, so anything that came, they were able to neutralize, So anyway, I'd like Jim to participate here because this is really, really important stuff here because, as you all know, we did the Newcomb tapes in 2014 where Tyler Newcomb provided me, and I'm so honored, because of so many researchers out there. Tyler selected me to transcribe the tapes, and which I did, and Jim knows the whole story about this. It took so long to do it, and it ended up with Gary and I doing the JFK Horseman series, the JFK Horseman 1 and 2 on YouTube, which had, Gary, how many views? Do you remember?
80, 100,000, something like that. 80 to 100,000.
Yeah.
Maybe more. It could be, some of them had a lot more. I just can't really remember. But those were the shows that had the views.
And that was that work was endorsed by Douglas Horn, who obviously, you know, when not Douglas, you know, endorses your work, you know, then you know that you know you're doing something important, because you know he just doesn't, you know, do that with anybody. So anyway, this Daniel film came out in 1978, and it was taken from the other side of the triple overpass. Remember when we went in 2014, we went over there and to the other side, you know, looking
Yes.
because of the second limo stop that we were doing a field study on that, you know, and we in fact we even stood where Mr. Jack Daniel was. He was with his three sons, you know, and they're all shown in the film, and jumping around and waving like crazy and everything, and they obviously oblivious to what has just occurred, you know, over on Elm Street on the other side of the triple overpass. And at the beginning, you know, they said, hey, you know, the film had no value because it didn't show anything going on in Elm Street. However, it did show the immediate aftermath of the vehicles coming out of Dealey Plaza. And I think that that's incredibly important, because we've had, like I just mentioned, this urban legend that James Chaney, Officer James Chaney, who never was called before the Warren Commission, I might add, neither was Douglas Jackson, who was on the same side that he was, only B.J. Martin and Bobby Hargis, for a total of 7 pages, Jim. If you go to their Warren Commission testimonies, it's 3.5 pages each.
That's barely enough time to establish their identity.
Yeah, exactly, you know. So it just goes to show you how interested, you know, the Warren Commission attorneys were in obtaining, you know, the truth of what.
How eager they were to suppress their testimony, yeah.
Of course, and that's why the Newcomb tapes are so important, because Fred Newcomb tracked them down in 1971. He went and sent all of them copies of the Zapruder film, and then he had this guy, Gil Toft, pseudonym John Whitney, called him up to get their impressions, and it was unfiltered. It was unvarnished, you know, and that's why, you know, the Newcomb tapes are starting to become so very important, because they changed everything that happened down there on Elm Street. And Jim has included this information.
So give us a clue of which each and every officer said independently without knowing or talking to you. Tell us, Larry.
I don't have to tell you that. You go ahead and say it.
It's been cut up. That film's been cut up. I ain't where they left that thing right there. Tell you that much. That's one of them said.
Not only that, you know, they all said the limo stopped.
Yeah, that limo stopped, you know. So it's probably one of the most, I don't know if damning shows we've ever done, just to just really, really obliterate that the Z film is authentic. However, it wasn't enough for some people. But that one, you know.
Well, it's a litmus test, Gary.
Yes. Like,
if you care about logic and evidence, if you want to pursue the truth, then you're persuaded. And if you have an agenda that's independent thereof, you don't. You aren't.
Yeah, I have a litmus test called the Boston Marathon, and it works really good. And
yes.
You know, so I know exactly what you're saying.
So let's take a look at this, gentlemen. Let's go ahead, Jim. Go ahead.
One of the JFK films to make a late debut is a Jack Daniels film. It did not surface until 1978. Unfortunately, the film was handed over to the FBI by the Daniels family, where it undoubtedly underwent significant scrubbing.
Let me just run this real quick so the audience can pinpoint exactly what we're talking about. First of all, look at how the lead car has already been overtaken by the JFK limo, okay? Yeah. You see right here? And supposedly the lead car was way ahead, leading the race to Parkland Hospital, you know? Here it slows down a little bit.
So we got Bill Decker in there. We got
oh yeah, you had Curry, you had Lawson, and you had Sorrells in there. All of them you know, in the lead car.
Well, once Jack is dead, they got to pretend like they really care and they want to try to save him. They know he's dead, so they're going to do their play acting
Yeah.
for the sake of posterity.
Yeah, but Chief Curry, he wasn't in on the plot, I don't believe.
No, I tend to agree with you, Gary. And he would never have published his JFK assassination files had he been.
Yeah.
So that's what's known as the Jack Daniel film, and this is what
this vintage 1979 article published in the journal Clandestine America explained how David Lifton correctly inferred that the order of the vehicles coming out of Dealey Plaza was not which we had been led to believe, that there were no motor jockeys, motorcycle patrolmen visible anywhere near the vehicles, and that the film therefore discarded the urban legend that Officer James Chaney caught up to Chief Jesse Curry's lead car to inform him about the severity of JFK's wounds.
This is a really good article, and for 1979, you know, it's way ahead of its time. You know, if you want to,
you want me to read it? The Daniel film. Another 8mm color film of Dealey Plaza at the time of the assassination has recently surfaced. Taken from a previously unseen angle, it provides significant evidence bearing on the presidential motorcade and the position of Officer H.B. McLean as it sped off following the shooting. The copyrighted 10-second, 176-frame film taken by amateur photographer Jack Daniel of Dallas clearly shows that only one motorcycle policeman escorted the motorcade as it emerged from the triple underpass to go up onto the Stevens Freeway. This lone policeman is not Officer McLean.
And he's way behind. He's
Yeah.
way back there.
Who has said that immediately after the shots, he turned on his siren and followed the limousine to the, he does say followed the limousine to the hospital. The Daniel film, therefore, supports the HSCA acoustical expert's conclusion that McLean's stock radio microphone is the one that transmitted the gunshots from Dealey Plaza to the DPD headquarters dictabel. Roger Gwynn, an aide to Representative Richardson Pryor, Democrat of North Carolina, commented, the film tends to support the acoustic evidence that there was a fourth shot by a second gunman and contradicts McLean's statement that he sped out of the plaza. John Sigalos, a Dallas attorney, is representing Daniel. Sigalos also handling Charles Bronson's recently discovered film. He echoed Gwynn's comments. The Daniel film doesn't show too much about the assassination itself, other than what transpired shortly thereafter, the motorcade coming out of the triple underpass, he said. I think it's a very good film in terms of telling us what happened after they took off. It appears that there's a clear breakaway, and it shows that certainly Officer McLean was not with a group, at least for some period of time. They were clearly on Stemmons, well on their way to the hospital. Specifically, how long after the headshot is it before McLean leaves the plaza? Bob Groden, HSCA photo consultant who has examined the original film closely, says the evidence seems to show, taking several other films into consideration in addition to the Daniel film, at least 28 to 30 seconds before McLean takes off. Daniel was standing with his three sons, two of whom were seen in the foreground of the film about 200 feet west of the underpass on the north side of Elm Street. The film sequence begins as a presidential limousine emerges from the railway underpass en route to the Stemmons Freeway and Parkland Hospital. To the left and behind Kennedy's car is the car of Police Chief Jesse Curry, the motorcade's lead car. Directly behind JFK's car is a Secret Service car, followed by LBJ's car and his Secret Service backup car. One motorcyclist who's been identified by Texas researcher Gary Mack and by Bob Groden as policeman B.J. Martin is visible. Back to the top.
Oh, yeah.
A small side mystery emerges from the order of the cars, according to the film. Secret Service agent Will Greer, the driver of the presidential limousine, told the Warren Commission specifically that he followed Chief Curry's car to Parkland Hospital. Greer testified he didn't know the way. As the Zapruder film shows, Curry's car was the lead car until the triple underpass. Curry apparently slowed down and pulls over to the left side of Elm Street just after the final headshot, and the Daniel film clearly shows Curry's car behind Greer when they emerged on the other side of the tunnel.
Mhm.
According to Segola, the president's car was first, no question about it. The follow-up Secret Service car is next, and Curry's car was the third car. Others who have seen the film, including Bob Groden, verify this description. So how did Greer know where to go?
Yeah, what the hell do you make out of him saying he didn't even know where the hospital was? I mean,
That's very damn interesting. Of course, he
Oh.
did, because he
Oh,
had
no,
all
I
mapped
find
out in
even-
advance. That was
I
part of
find-
his script.
I find even stranger that Robert Groden might have gotten his hands on the original version of the
yeah.
film. You know,
I think Groden is a prime candidate for being the cleanup artist, because look, if they're going to edit the film, you got to have somebody who knows a lot about the case, who knows what to edit, what changes to make they're going to work. So I think Groden turns out to have an even deeper role in the editing or the alteration of the home movies in Dallas than merely the Zapruder.
well, you know, Gail Nix, you know, in her book, she, you know, goes off, you know, and is very specific about him not having something to do with the alteration of the Nix film. So,
And how could Judah stand by this POS? I'm absolutely shocked. She
You know-
gives him a lifetime achievement award for altering evidence, withholding evidence in the assassination of our 35th president.
Yeah.
Shame on you, Judith. Shame on you, Judith.
How many mysteries are there in the world? Well, we have a new one.
New York critic David Lifton has pointed out this discrepancy. The popular conception has always been that Chief Curry led the president's car to the hospital, said Lifton. The conception is proved wrong, at least at the point of the Stemmons ramp, by the Daniel film. Lifton points out that Curry's testimony on this matter is vague, and that he only says the motorcade went to the hospital under siren escort. He doesn't say whether he led them or tailed them, says Lifton. But three Secret Service officials, Greer, Forrest Sorrells, and Winston Lawson, all give testimony that is specific and completely contradicted by the Daniel film. Sorrells, Secret Service chief of Dallas, and Lawson, the advance agent from Washington, were both riding in Chief Curry's car. Lifton points out, for example, and I just got to say, I think Lifton has done so much brilliant work. You know, whatever our differences here and there, I really admire the guy, and I learned more from Best Evidence when I got serious than from any other source about the assassination.
pig on a leash.
Yep. Lifton points out, for example, that Greer told the commission, "I never passed it, Curry's car. I was led to the hospital by the police car who was preceding me." Flatly wrong. Lawson was asked by the commission if Greer actually passed Curry's car at any time. Lawson replied, "No, sir, they never did. We stayed ahead of them." Clearly false. And this is under oath, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The explanation to this is either that these three highly trained agents panicked in this emergency and totally forgot what did happen, or that somebody is lying. Gee, I wonder which is which.
Yeah.
Could be the reason be another mystery. Daniel originally offered his film to the Dallas Sheriff's Department in 1963, shortly after the assassination. The DPD decided it wasn't significant evidence and returned it to him.
Of course not.
Yeah, none of the films matter because they already knew what happened. They didn't even have to stick around for the actual shooting to know and how it would all come out. In late 1978, one of his sons encouraged him to contact the FBI, which he did. FBI agents received the film and sent to Washington on December 28th.
Thank you.
He requested a copy. Say again, Larry?
I said, thank you very much.
Yeah, right. More evidence for us to tidy up and make consistent as we can with the official story. One general misconception has developed about the film due to an inaccurate report in the Denver Post, 2879, which first broke the story. The Post reported that the film clearly showed the grassy knoll and might reveal a puff of smoke coming from there. Both these facts left the erroneous impression in the minds of many readers that the Daniels film might be principal, should be PAL, evidence of a second gunman on the knoll. Looking through the underpass tunnel, Daniel's camera could see some of the plaza on the other side. However, none of the grassy knoll is visible. The Post got the story wrong because it does not show the knoll at all. Sinelos told the AJB.
AIB.
As Smoke, what happened is that Bob Groden had the original, and there have been some copies made. And on these copies, there appears to be some sort of haze coming across the grassy area on the middle of the plaza as you're looking underneath the underpass. Groden thinks it is just an illusion. One of Daniel's boys was waving his hand very, very rapidly at JFK's limousine, and his hand became a blur, and it makes the area in the background appear a little bit lighter. There is no one who wants that to be a puff of smoke from a gun more than me. It should be more than I. But most likely it's not. I think it's just a waving hand. Singalo said, it'll be studied more to be sure what it is, but you can't see the grassy knoll. It would have to be a cannon going off to see smoke drifting over that far from the knoll.
Of course, but you know,
I think this implicates Groden in multiple ways, frankly.
Look at this. It says Groden had the original how many times? Twice.
Yeah, bad news. Anytime Groden gets original, by the way, anytime he gets original, he keeps the original.
Oh yeah, he's probably got it.
So this isn't even the original Daniels.
Well, and we're going to see, you know, we're going to proceed on and delve more into the Daniel film in a way that nobody has ever done before, Jim.
Good.
I have some animated GIFs.
Good.
And some selected frames that Mike Machanska alluded to that he sent me a text message, you know, and it's you're going to see now. So this, of course, coincides with what the JFK Horsemen stated in telephone interviews recorded by Fred Newcomb in 1971, transcribed by yours truly in 2014, which completely changed the perception of what really happened on Elm Street, Jim and Gary. Yeah. And where Shane stated that he stopped long enough for Bobby Hargis to run in front of him in between the two limousines, which had stopped as he raced up the grassy knoll. This delayed Shaney long enough to make it impossible for him to catch up to Curry's lead car, as mentioned above. Shaney was never called to testify before the Warren Commission. Here is the reason why. Go ahead, Dr. Fetzer.
Cheney. I don't know whether the lead car stopped or not, but I know that, Kennedy's car, the one behind them, apparently did, because it was officers that run from the left-hand side in front of me. Whitney, Cheney, I know I stopped. Whitney, right. Cheney, whenever I seen what happened there, then I know Hargis, the motorcycle escort on the other side, run across the front. Whitney, yeah, Bobby, I just spoke to him a few minutes ago. Yeah. You know, I think that at least between 60 and 75 people that day claimed the car stopped. But even if it didn't stop, Cheney, whether the lead car did or not, I don't believe that it did. I slowed down enough that this agent, what's his name, Clint Hill? Whitney, right. Cheney slowed down enough that he did get on that car. Now, whether or not he was on there or not, you know, several different times during the procession there, he would run up and jump on this little step and ride there for a couple seconds and jump off. And that all depends on how fast it was going along and where we were at. So whether I don't believe that it actually stopped, it could have, but I don't know. I know that the second car did because I recall the officers and Officer Hargis jumped off the motor and run in front of me. Whitney, right. That's another thing. Cheney, I don't recall myself stopping, must have, or come almost to a stop. Hargis did. He got off of his motorcycle over on the left-hand side to run between those two cars and run in front of me. So apparently I did too. I don't recall stopping, but I'm not sure.
So did he stop or did he not stop? Of course.
Of course he stopped.
You know, and for Hargis to have had enough time to run in between the two limos, and Jim has presented this many times, you know, from
that's a lot of time. That's a lot of time to park your bike and get off of it. You got to put the kickstand down. You got to make sure it doesn't fall over.
Absolutely.
Ah.
And then to do what those guys did, like, Jackson, he ran his motorcycle up the embankment, and let it fly off, and he went chasing, a gunman.
That's obviously why the Warren Commission didn't want to call him.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's why, of course. And James Chaney also. I mean, that is, anybody who even comes near this case, Jim, and you come across this type of scenario where the two most important witnesses, Chaney and Jackson, are not called before the Warren Commission. Come on, give me a break.
Yep. Recently, film expert collaborator Mick Mashanka observed darkening in the area of the JFK.
It's Mike. But Mick, it's Mike. I'm sorry, it's Mick.
Mike. Yeah. Darkening in the area of the JFK limousine windshield in some of the frames of the Daniel film. Now, remember, Dennis Camino has been brilliant in detecting photoshopped areas of the Altgen 6. And check out these obvious blackouts. I've never seen a clear copy of this film before to notice. Here are a few of them, numbered Daniel 34 to Daniel 37. This is the one that Mike sent me the first time that he sent it by text. And obviously, here, this is what he's talking about here, Jim. The area of the
window dark.
It's been darkened out here. Okay, and everybody that knows that Mike is an expert. He's a film expert. He's in Hollywood. He's in with all he knows just about everybody over there, and he's in the know on this, and he's a film expert. We've had him on the show before. 3
shows in a row. I'm going to get the number of the shows if anybody wants to go back to that.
Okay, and these are actual frames from the Daniel film. Obviously, these are not the best. Okay, but as you go from 34, 35, 36, and 37, if you zoom in, you'll see, what I'm talking about regarding the obfuscation here of the area of the windshield. Okay, now
Mike's observations prompted us to go back and examine the film frame by frame. When frame Daniel 16 was examined closely, however, we discovered what was really happening in the JFK limousine. There are 4 distinct figures visible. We know William Greer, the driver, and Rory Killerman riding shotgun are seen in the front seats. And what appears to be Jackie's pillbox hat can be seen in the middle. But who is the other person?
This is what we're talking about. As we went further back, see, the frames that Mike brought attention to were frames further up, and advanced, for example, 34 to 37. But as we went further back and we started from frame 1, we found this, and obviously, apparently, whoever doctored the film, completely missed this and others, because we're going to see in a minute here. And you can see there's a host of people in there, Jim,
Yeah. Yes. Killerman is clearly seen looking back over his left shoulder, and there's another man looking to his right in the back seat.
Right here.
Yet many of the subsequent frames after Daniel 16 appear to have been tampered with, obliterating the area noticed by Machanska.
This right here. This guy, who is this guy? This is Kellerman. This is Greer. This is what appears to be Jackie. Now, we're going to look at some Zapruder frames, and I'm sure I don't even have to go into testimony, but we all know that Connolly fell into Nellie's lap, probably was laying on the floor. JFK went completely to his left. He's already dead, okay? And he's, laying on Jackie's lap, probably. And at the end of the ride there to Parkland, they were already on the floor. From other information that we have, from actual articles that came out, for example, what was Merriman Smith, who published, that same day, saying that when they got there to Parkland, JFK was lying on the floorboards of the limo. Okay, so they were well below eye level. Here's what I'm trying to.
Yes.
Does that boot mean anything? That black. It looks like a black boot right in the middle of the.
Yeah. Here's a super close up of that. That's why a good point. We don't know what this is, but this is the guy right here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who is this guy? You know,
It's somebody else that jumped in the limousine besides
you can
Clint Hill.
see. You can see that this guy.
Where is Clint Hill here, Gary?
He's still over here. He's still on the back of the limo. He's still trying to, get his balance, which we're going to see now in the end of the.
He'll be on the back of the limo. He's been already in line across JFK.
That's what he said in his book, and we're going to see now.
Holy moly, Larry! This is really unbelievable.
Well, it's okay. So here's an animation from.
If even Clint Hill is lying about this,
No,
wow.
Well, even and I even cite Costello here in a minute. Holy horses. It's coming.
This animation shows a movement in Daniel 15 to Daniel 25.
10 frames actually, and this is all before they started to obfuscate, before they started to paint out the windshield. Okay.
Yeah. This is like overlooking the hole in the head in frames 374 and the others we've identified, Larry.
Yeah, and so you're able to see here actual movement there. Kellerman and that guy in the back, obviously, there's movement, and you can tell his collar, the white collar there, and right here. See, this is the white collar, and
yeah. So he's wearing a suit.
Yeah, he's wearing a suit. He's looking to his right, this is not Connolly.
Right.
This is not Connolly.
Right.
Anybody, I'm sure, they're going, oh, wait a minute, that's John Connolly. Do you think this is John Connolly?
No, of course, as you said, he's flat on the floor already.
Yeah, he's got 3 holes in him, 3 or 4, maybe 5, He's all shot up, he's just he's spitting up blood and everything. Don't forget that his lung got punctured and everything,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Anybody been, I don't know, do you guys realize how painful it is when you have a pneumothorax, which is when your lung gets punctured? This is the most excruciating pain, that you can go through, and then they have to put tubes in between your ribs, to drain that fluid that's coming out. It's horrible, when your lung collapses. It's horrible, completely. And that's what John Connolly was going through at the moment.
Right. So he was in anguish.
Oh, trust me. You think John Connolly would have been able to sit up like this?
No, absolutely not. You got it.
Okay. So enough said about that. Okay, so here you go.
At Daniel 16, Governor Connolly is out of sight, lying on Nellie's lap, as seen in the Zapruder film frame Z389, and the moribund president is lying to his left below the level of the back seat.
Right here. You don't see them at all.
Here's a scan of frame Z371 from my copy of Life magazine.
That's when the color frames first came out.
Good clarity there, Larry.
I'm sorry?
Also, the hero of the day, or so we thought, Clint Hill, is still trying to crawl into the limousine as late as frames 445 and 466 as it enters a triple underpass tunnel. According to his own account, Hill laid over both the president and first lady, where he was close enough to see the blood on the back of Kennedy's head. But as John Costello has observed, this is not seen in the Zapruder film.
And I'm just going to click on this real quick. Can you guys see this here? JimFetzer.org, Who's Telling the Truth? Okay. Yeah. And this is an article that Jim published in the old, what was that?
Veterans Today.
Veterans Today, yeah. And where John noticed, what I just said there regarding Clint Hill and his book, where it did not coincide at all with what he wrote, with it did not comport with what's seen in the Zapruder film.
You know, what's so damn interesting, Larry, is that Clint Hill's testimony makes him the first to observe and report up close and personal a blowout at the back of the head.
But it looks like he still
wasn't in the position to do that.
Yeah, he's still trying to get in the car way down the street, it looks like to me.
Which is what we're going to see now, Gary. Thank you.
This is very strange.
This is 445, and this is 446, and look who's here.
Still trying to get in.
That's just about ready to enter the tunnel. I mean, I think this is 2 frames before the tunnel, Jim.
That's unbelievable, Larry.
Look, when they accelerate, he's trying to hold on for dear life.
So
that's right. That's right, Gary. You're absolutely right.
This is 466.
See, I thought he ran up and got on when it was still motionless, when it wasn't even moving. That's how come he could get out there.
So, but look at him. He's still, I mean, he's not even, yeah, he's hanging on for dear life. And that's exactly what the motorcycle jockeys, the motorcycle officers mentioned. He said, hey, this guy almost fell off, you know, the limousine sped away, you know, and that's what we're going to see now in a minute, you know. So we can go here, you know, it's pretty obvious, you know.
Yeah.
Clint Hill is not one of these guys. He's not that's not Clint Hill. Okay? Right here. That's not Clint Hill already in the limo. That's my point here. Okay?
And I always thought that Clint Hill was basically a stand-up guy. It's impossible to continue to believe that.
Another one bites the dust.
Another one bites the dust.
So who is this guy? Who the hell is this guy? You know?
Great question.
You know? I mean,
he was the guy who was going to make sure Jack was dead. If he was still alive, he was going to make sure he was dead.
Good point. So
back to our unidentified individual. He's clearly sitting straight up and looking to his right, his left profile and shirt collar visible through the windshield in Daniel 16.
Yeah.
As the limousine approaches the Daniel family, the darkening of the frames becomes more evident. Here's frame Daniel 48.
Ta-da.
Yeah.
Enlargement of the limousine.
And you can actually see the outline of the airbrushing here, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And with
let's start with Mike's, isn't it Mark?
Mike.
Okay, with Mike's keen observation of the obfuscation of the Daniel frames ended up raising even more questions as to what really happened on Elm Street when JFK was gunned down 22 November 1963. Perhaps some of those questions might have been answered by both Sergeant Stavis Ellis and Bobby Hargis when they had this to say in the Newcomb Capes of 1971. Whitney, did you notice who was in the car? Ellis. It was the governor, Governor Connolly and his wife, the driver and Secret Service man, and Jackie Kennedy in the back with a dead president. See how it's nice? He's accurately describing him as already dead.
Yeah.
Everyone else wants to pretend that he was still alive and they tried to save him at Parkland. That's good. And 1 or 2 agents were there by then because we nearly lost one of them hanging on as fast as going. They had a hard time hanging on there. So that's got to be Clint.
Yeah.
In fact, of the 2 agents, this one old boy that Jackie knew had made the trip across overseas with her, he comes running and jumped on there. And another one, and by the time we pulled out, I think we had 2 agents hanging on the back.
There you go.
Well, is it possible it was a second agent who was hanging on the back?
Absolutely. You're going to be able to see him later on.
No, but what I mean, Gary, is in that it actually was Clint Hill in the seat.
I don't think so. I think he's still hanging on. As
Larry. We got 2 agents, and one's hanging on, but one's in the seat. So could Clint be the one in the seat and the agent hanging on being the second agent that rushes up?
Well, later on, remember we also did a study on the Miller photograph where one of them has his feet sticking out, and the other one is straddling the back seat there. But this is already, you know, after they're on Stemmons Freeway. Okay, so there's been a reorganization, you know, of the people in the limo there. You know,
by the time we pulled out, I think we had 2 agents hanging on the back. Whitney, you had 2 in the back. You don't remember? Ellis, I believe. I know we had 1 and possibly 2. Whitney, you don't know who the other one is? Ellis, no, this one boy name is Hill. Whitney Hill. Yeah, Hill was the guy hanging on the back. Ellis. He's a guy who went overseas and guarded Jackie on a trip she took overseas, and she was looking for him. She turned around because she knew he was there, I guess. She was looking and hollering for him, and he ran and jumped back in the car and nearly fell as we was taking off.
Holding on.
Not very grammatical.
Yeah. I mean, how dramatic. And you know something, Jim, when you hear this, it's even more dramatic because Stavis Ellis, with his baritone voice, and the southern drawl, it's just when you hear this, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to post, I'm going to put the audio in there.
Good. Whitney, were they the guys who jumped out of their car?
This is Bobby Hargis now.
Yeah, Whitney. Were they the guys who jumped out of their car and pursued it to the car in front of them? Hargis. Well, two of them did. Whitney, two. Hargis, ran up to the back of the Continental. Whitney, two ran out to the back of the Continental. Hargis, Whitney, two ran. You shouldn't be saying out. You should be saying up. Two ran up to the back of the Continental. Hargis, there were two Secret Service men. They got steps up there. Whitney, right. Hargis that they ride on. This one on the left-hand side stopped Jackie Kennedy from coming out. That would be Clint Hill. Whitney, one of them got on the back and stopped Jackie. That was probably Clint Hill. The other one, did he get in the car? Hargis, yeah, Whitney, when did he get into the car? Hargis, well, I'm not exactly sure there. If it was one on the left and one on the right, one of them paused, put his body over the president where no harm could come to him right after he's already had his brains blown out, I guess. I don't know, but that's all you could see was his feet sticking out.
Yeah, key point.
So, back to the Daniel film. This, thanks to Mike, we're able to see, and focus, on what's really going on inside that limo for at least, 10 frames here. The ones that were not obliterated, that were not blacked out. And I don't know, Jim and Gary, what do you guys think about this whole thing?
I think the other agent jumped in the back of the seat, just like he's saying. And Robert Groden.
You got two different witnesses saying the same thing about a second agent.
He wasn't the only one to jump in. Remember when Walter Cronkite said they all fanned out? Well, one of them decided to jump in back of the limousine.
Not only that, Douglas Jackson said 5 or 6 agents,
surrounded the limo.
Surrounded the limo.
Right.
And I mean, with guns drawn, and I mean, how,
one took a chunk of skull from a little boy and threw it into the back seat.
That's right. So when is this crap about the Zapruder film ever going to be re-examined?
Right. Larry, you're really talking about the hold that the infiltrators, they created, right? This is the old maxim. Was it Lenin who said the best way to control the opposition is to lead it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
And I think Robert Groden is a prime candidate and Tink Thompson's another.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah, when I went to Dealey Plaza, he was the first person I encountered, Robert.
Yeah.
But what our audience is seeing here, this is probably the first time that this type of work has been done, isolating this part of the Daniel film, and I'm sure there are better versions of the film.
Yeah, Robert's got one.
And another thing that the Daniel film also confirms, and I have to go back to our friend Roy Schaefer, who did the blink rate study of the limo, and in the Daniel film, you see a uniform blink rate of the flashers there, the red flashers.
I was thinking about that.
But when you do the Zapruder film, I mean, this is proof that frames have been extricated, that have been removed.
Yeah. That was their argument way back when, 1998.
Yeah, and
I committed a blunder because I didn't include all of the pattern that Roy and Mike had discovered, that Roy discovered and Mike helped him write up. That was just a mistake of mine in editing. I didn't include it all. Roy, I know, was upset, and he was right to be upset. It was my mistake not to include it all.
And this is further proof that Roy was right about the blink rate.
Roy's been right about so many things. He really was precocious.
Yeah. He's
first generation legend.
Yeah. Well, we know, and he's got a lot of stories. So anyway, this is this is something that the first time it's ever been shown, and I think we're going to get a lot of good comments there about this, from the audience, because this is real proof here that something went on in that limo that we haven't been told, you know, from the official version, you know, and
Well, we know he wasn't responsible for finishing off Jack because Jack was already finished off.
for real.
Yeah.
They can't kill him twice.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think he was there to make sure he was dead. And I do think if he was still alive, he would have killed him.
Isn't that just one hell of a note to know that somebody else is sitting in the limousine and we never knew that?
Well, we did have the foot sticking out, remember, when we did talk about that. So,
but you can see him.
You know what's so incredible about this? That so many witnesses were suppressed who saw what really happened on Elm Street, yet they took, you know, that information to their graves.
Every single black person was never interviewed.
Well, Larry, that's the simplest way to control the outcome. You only cite the evidence favorable to your case and you eliminate the rest.
Mm-hmm. And like Gary just mentioned, which I keep, you know, pounding away, where are the African Americans and their descendants who were there lining Elm Street, who know what happened, who saw what happened, heard what happened, and we've never heard anything. We don't even have the information on who they were. You know,
we had to run down Roy Schaefer to get him his account, you know? I mean,
you know, yeah, no, Roy Lewis. You're talking about Roy Lewis.
That's right, Roy Lewis. Yeah,
yeah. Roy was in the doorway. I'm talking about, you know, those 10 or 12 African American witnesses that are seen in the Alton 6 photograph.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, they were standing at the curbside.
Yeah,
Is there more to the article, Larry, or is this it? Is there more to the end of it?
No, this is it. You know, this, you know, it all started with Mike, you know, and again, you know, we have to.
Yeah, very good, very good. You put together the relevant parts, Larry.
And again, for those who want to see what the Daniel film looks like, you know, in real time, this is it, you know. And again, look at Chief Curry is beside the JFK limo has overtaken Chief Curry right here on the right. This is the lead car, supposedly, you know. And if you look, wait until it comes into the slow motion. I'm going to show you guys the lone motorcycle guy, this guy right here, who apparently is B.J. Martin. Okay, so we know that Shaney and Jackson are nowhere to be found. We know that this thing about Shaney being the one that, you know, drove up and told Curry about the severity of JFK's head wounds, you know, there's nothing but a bunch of crap, you know, and that's so explained, you know, in the book. And right here, as you can see, and they're coming out of the tunnel there. And this is, you know, so very tragic because now we're starting to really, you know, understand what really happened there on Elm Street.
Who's the very last car back there? That's LBJ's car?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Talk about he's flat on his stomach.
Yeah. So there it is.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Love it. Fascinating.
New stuff. New stuff.
Yeah. You keep surprising us.
Yeah. I read that. I went to the blog. I saw it. I thought it was great. I was up on that one. And I really believe your masterpiece, Larry, is really getting the Newcomb tapes and having those men describe, you know, what is not in the Zapruder film, proving how fake it is.
Gary, what you need to do is repost the JFK Horseman 1 and 2 on the 153 News.
I'm pledging right now to do that. I pledge, Gary King, solemnly swear to put out the JFK Horseman 1 and 2.
Because those are real classics, you know, I have to say, you know, it gets down to the crux of the matter, and it brings, you even said it, you know, in the shows, it brings back, you know, the voices from the grave, you know, of these guys, you know, that were there, and they were trying to explain, they were trying to, you know, tell the world what really happened, and they were not allowed to do so.
Yep. No. Good job, Larry.
Yeah, that and the overlays of Lee Oswald in the doorway. Larry, you're going to go down in history over that stuff. I'm telling you.
Already has.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, you want to call it short on this one, fellas?
I think we got a show.
Yeah, sometimes you just know when it's good, and all you're going to do is mess it up. So.
That's right.
All right, we're going to call it on that one. This is JFK show number 246. We'll see you next week. Yeah, that was kick-ass.
Cut. Stop recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.